All right, joining us now, member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Republican Rand Paul of Kentucky. Senator Paul changed his vote to yes last night on Mike Pompeo's Secretary of State nomination after getting several, quote, assurances from Pompeo himself and President Trump. And Senator, what were those assurances that came at the final moments that you didn't hear before?
You know, you've heard me before say that we've been at war too long and in too many places. I still believe that. I believe that very strongly. In fact, I think that's one of my #1 jobs up here, is to try to see if we can end some of our military involvement around the globe. And so in saying that, that was one of the reasons I was worried about Director Pompeo, because when I've asked him repeatedly, was the Iraq war a mistake? President Trump has said it's a mistake. Do you say it's a mistake? I really wasn't getting a direct answer. Over the weekend, both meeting with Pompeo and then also discussing again on the phone with him and the president, you know, every time I talk to the president, I become more and more of the belief that he truly does share my notion that we've been at war too long and in too many places. Whether Director Pompeo does or not, he's telling me, yes, that he thinks the president is right, and the president's vision for the world is going to be his job, and that I think we'll hear from him publicly, more specifically, that our foreign policy hasn't worked in the past and that regime change hasn't worked. And so these are the things I've been pushing for, and I felt like that in the end, I did get some satisfaction. We also have had some discussions on another front with the president over the last couple of days. I've been very concerned that the FBI is allowed to look at Americans' information without a warrant. And I've had some discussions with him over whether or not we could actually have an executive order from the president that simply says, from now on, we're going to obey the Fourth Amendment, and the FBI agents will have to get a warrant to look at these foreign surveillance databases. That's a big step forward for me, too. So in all of these discussions, I came to the point of view that I would give Director Pompeo a chance, and I think that we'll hear more from him in the next couple of days that hopefully will be heartening to those of point of view that we need to have less war.
Senator Paul, it's Willie Geist. Good to see you this morning, as always. You wrote last month that you couldn't support Pompeo because he was a neocon. You said last week that your vote was going to be a no unless you heard something different. I mean, you've described yourself in these op-eds and other places Pompeo's record of support for intervention. So do you think that a phone call from him or a meeting with him where he says, yeah, sure, Iraq was a mistake and we'll get out of Afghanistan is enough to undo everything else you know about him? A lot of people are skeptical that Pompeo just told you what you wanted to hear to get the vote.
Yeah, and I think nothing's a guarantee in life. And so we have to make a decision sometime whether or not we have the conversation coming in a direction we want it to. I think also Pompeo going to North Korea at the behest of the president, some have said this says more about the president than Pompeo, but at the same time, it's an openness to negotiation. And really, you know, we talk about, you know, the whole idea of, you know, speak softly and carry a big stick. I think Trump is sort of speak loudly, carry a big stick, but also maybe have an olive branch somewhere out there that you're willing to still have diplomacy. So at some point in time, I know everybody's been very critical of the president on foreign policy, but actually if there's a breakthrough on North Korea, it will be an amazing thing. What if there's a breakthrough in Afghanistan? I still do believe that the president's instincts are for less war, less involvement, and that many of our foreign policy interventions have backfired on us. That's exactly what I've been saying. And what I've been doing is trying to push to make sure that there are voices around him that actually agree with the president on that.
Elise.
Senator Paul, specifically with Afghanistan, what did President Trump describe as the strategy, and what is the drawdown strategy that Mike Pompeo says that he now embraces?
I would say that, you know, one of the things that Director Pompeo responded to me in written questions was there is no military solution. So I've been pressing both he and the president on this, that if there's no military solution, why would we send one more soldier to Afghanistan? I'm not getting exactly the certitude that I would like to have that we're not sending one more soldier. But I can tell you in my discussions, both private and public with the president over the last year, he has not been excited about, you know, doing another President Obama surge of 100,000 troops in there. I don't think the president's for that at all. They did send some more troops in there, but I actually think that was begrudgingly so. I do not think the president wants to continue forever the Afghan war, and I think he is and will actively look for a way to resolve it. As far as specifically troop withdrawals and exactly what times, none of that was discussed. But I think I think people would be surprised to hear the conversation between he and I, and people know where I'm coming from on foreign policy, that there's really not that much difference between the president and I about our desire to really to lessen these foreign interventions that really have backfired so much on us.
Senator Rand Paul, thank you very much for being on the show this morning.
Thank you.
Up next,